Improve the seat pile.
It's kind of a classic. It's like the seaboard version of the Westminster, you know.
Okay, you're ready to go.
Great, thank you. Welcome to the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the Budget Governmental Affairs Committee. My name is Steve Perez and I'm the Vice Chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez and Assistant District Manager Brendan Burke. This meeting is called to order at 6:31 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, we don't have anybody. We do need a volunteer to take minutes tonight. Please let us know if you are able to take the minutes. Anyone?
I can do it. I have my laptop with me today.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your names. When your name is called, please say present. I'll announce if there is quorum. Tanya Arias.
Present.
Jen Collins.
Yep.
B. Desmond.
Present.
Rob Parfin. Present. Ned Kalani is with us. Ava Marie Lassiter.
Present.
Rachel Patel.
Present.
And Steve Perez.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Great. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the May 12th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the minutes for the May 12th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Okay, in order to, I think everybody has been here before, so we need to discuss the ground rules again. Let's jump right into, because we do have a full agenda, the agenda. So the first topic we have is the discussion of New York City Council legislation regarding community boards. The reason why this came up, and apologies to everyone for having to send information at the very last minute today. There has been more items added to this new city council oversight hearing, which is happening. It was supposed to happen on Thursday. Now we just received word this evening that it's been moved to next Tuesday. Is that right?
Monday.
So it's been moved again, but it's well before, it's happening next week. So this is our last chance to kind of opine and discuss it before the city council has their hearing. And so this relates to all of these different intros that have been proposed regarding community board operations. And so I don't know if Jesus, maybe you want to, or we have someone here from Carlina Rivera's office, who's a sponsor for Intro 472. And I think we wanted to hear, since Carlina Rivera is a co-sponsor of the bill, just any background that you can provide to us about this intro and kind of the rationale for bringing it up. I think we have Spencer here from.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer. I'm from Councilmember Rivera's office. I'm the Councilmember scheduler and CB6 liaison. Nice to meet everybody. Yeah, happy to speak on Intro 472 a little bit more. The background for the bill is that Councilmember Williams, in collaboration with the Equal Employment Practices Commission, identified that community board members were not required to take anti-sexual harassment or anti-discrimination training, or it wasn't provided through the city. And so they felt that because the community boards are interfacing with the public, that it would be appropriate for the borough presidents to provide appropriate resources so that community board members are well equipped for those interactions. So that's the background for the bill. Happy to answer any questions that I can. Councilmember Rivera isn't signed on to the other bills, so She doesn't have a position on those. I can't really speak to those, but I'm happy to take any feedback that you guys have and relay that to the legislative team and council member as well.
Does anyone have any questions about that particular intro regarding requiring borough presidents to provide equal opportunity trainings to community board members?
Just a comment, we absolutely should. I'm surprised that we don't. And
Sorry.
you have any private board, you have to have sexual harassment training, any private board. I'm stunned. And it's not just in our interfaces with the public, it's also our interface with each other. So, yeah, 100%.
Go ahead, Ross.
Otherwise, we can get sued.
So I was gonna say that I have gone to EEO training with the Manhattan Borough President's Office. It's been 2 years they've been offering it. So I guess it's not citywide though.
B,
Yeah.
go ahead.
EEO.
Oh, sorry, Spencer, did you want to?
I was just going to say, my understanding of the bill's language is that it would be required, not just offered. So
Oh,
I
I
think
see.
that is the distinction. Yeah.
Great. Go ahead, B.
So I'm with Jim. I am very surprised that I do agree we have the potential to do it, but I have sat through many EEO courses in sexual harassment. You need that not just for the public, but with each other and how we present issues. So I'm a big supporter of that. And it's a shame that we haven't had it mandated before.
Go ahead, Tanya.
I have it routinely on a yearly basis in my company, and it's actually very easy to do. It's all online.
Yeah.
So it should be easy to distribute to all of the community boards because you do it online. Yeah,
Go ahead, sis.
Spencer, I have a question. In reading the language of the intro, I wasn't sure why it didn't actually specify, like, is this every year? Is it just once? Is there a reason maybe why that wasn't specifically outlined there, or will it maybe find its way in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm happy to get an answer for you guys and get back to you on it.
Thank you.
This says just EEO, it also includes sexual harassment, doesn't it?
It says that it's not limited to just EEO, it can include sexual harassment.
I would suggest to the council member that she make it sexual harassment as well. Mandatory. Which is also offered online by any number of companies.
Yep, happy to take that feedback back to the council member.
Okay.
Yes, it says it would include but not be limited to sexual harassment prevention training and anti-discrimination training.
and I recommend that it's done yearly.
And here it is, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like many of you, I've also attended the Manhattan Borough President training on this. I just assumed that everybody was doing it, but it's just something that everybody should be doing, so
We should have been doing it.
makes sense. Any other comments on that intro before we move on to some of the other ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so the other intro that comes next is 1065, and this is in relation to the terms of employment for district managers. And what it does is it allows the borough president to remove a district manager at will, among other things. So I wanted to open it up to, we actually have a draft resolution, which we distributed to everybody in advance in opposition to it. But I want to open it up to comments.
I just had a question. How did this come about? That it was done without any consultation with any of the community boards? What was the issue that we got to this point? That's what I wanted to know.
That I don't know. I don't know
And
if
that's a
anybody
very
here
good
knows.
question.
So that's a good question.
Yeah, what prompted it? Jesus and
There's speculation that I don't necessarily want to repeat if it's not true. That would be a question that's better directed to council member Williams.
Yeah.
Who put forward this. She is currently the only sponsor of everyone in the council on this bill. We did invite her office to appear at the committee today, but received no response about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we want to look at that resolution?
Yeah.
The resolution is actually up right now, and I'm focused on the resolve process.
Okay,
And just FYI, I went through my records and we've had, it's EEO training. And they've been doing it since Gail Brewer was board president, since I actually was on the board since 2018. I have records of it.
Alright, so we have as far as intro, 1065, we have that we are opposed to it as currently written. And we call upon the New York City Council to reject the legislation and to instead engage us through a collaborative process with community boards to address these concerns. Similar to what Eva Marie was just suggesting, that there should be a process of engagement with community boards. Go ahead.
Have we reached out to the other community boards? To see how they feel about
Well,
this?
so CB2 passed a resolution already
Okay.
that this is modeled on opposing this, but
So
other than that,
only
I'm not
CB2?
aware. I don't know if others are aware.
Apparently, so we've been talking, the district managers obviously are very concerned about this.
Right.
And we do talk with each other, both in the borough and across the city. Quite a few chairs and district managers are going to the hearing on the 16th to speak against this. Some of the district managers are, very, very concerned, both long-serving
And-
ones and new-serving ones.
As they should.
So,
It would be nice if they all had resolutions.
this sort of did come out, so sort of very recently. It had been bubbling up late last year, but it looks so bizarre that, speaking to some of the council members on the GovOps committee, some of the, longer serving ones that have a lot of experience in government, that were like, yeah, no chance. But it got placed on this hearing, so, I guess it's time to take it at least somewhat seriously.
My life motto is take nothing for granted.
Yes.
Ever.
Looks like B has her hand raised. Go ahead, B.
So I have my hand raised because I cannot tolerate at-will employees in these types of positions. It becomes politicized. And I have been on the board long enough to not deal with, to deal with some of the questions that we have had with district managers. And it really provides, we have methods and process. And this seems like it was written for one or two specific situations that they had. So I can see even what's happening now in the federal government, trying to make civil servants at will. It really does not work very well to keep it neutral and to have a neutral arbitrator.
Yeah.
I support this resolution.
But you have to be able to fire a district manager who goes astray, which is an instance we had on this board years ago when I was younger and skinnier.
Go ahead, Jesus.
Well, to be perfectly clear, the charter does indicate that the district manager, any district manager of any of the 59 community boards serves at the pleasure of the community board. So they are technically at will already. The one thing this does different is that it adds 4-year terms to the district manager. So every 4 years, you either have to hire me again, or you have to, or any district manager, or you get to just start over and pick another one. It also introduces the element that does not exist right now, that the borough president can just remove your district manager for whatever reason, because there are no reasons outlined in this legislation, which really alarms a lot of the community boards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very problematic, because someone could say, yeah, I want my brother to be in that role or something, yeah.
That is, for me, also the most problematic.
Yeah,
component of
There's
this.
no guardrails, there's no.
Is there any provision to fire them for cause?
District managers under
for
the
example?
district managers under the charter currently, under current law, serve at the pleasure of the board. So long as enough members get together and pass a resolution to fire a district manager, they can be fired, so long as it's not for discriminatory reasons, and lawsuits and stuff. But that exists already. The borough president being able to dismiss a district manager does not. And that's one of the things that this legislation is seeking to add.
And it only has one sponsor.
Yes, the person who wrote it, yes.
is this just some sort of, you know, power grab from the president's office, knowing that their scope of responsibilities or power, is limited? Is this just, something it's a low hanging fruit? Oh, I'll take that on,
I would hate to speculate on something.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
that's a question for Councilmember Williams, who did not respond to our invitation to appear today.
Do we know how much support this has? Any idea?
I don't have a background in the legislative side of the council. However, a few people I've spoken to about this have remarked the fact that it only has the one sponsor.
It's very telling to me.
Yeah, it's very
Honestly.
unusual to only have one.
It's very unusual, and it just seems like, there's some sort of, we don't want to speculate, but there must be some sort of beef involved here, and it's so wide open and so easy to interpret in so many ways that that's probably why there's only one sponsor, because, this is fraught with danger. Okay, so,
Does someone want to call a motion to vote on the resolution?
So move.
yeah, I second.
Okay,
And then shall you conduct the vote?
yep, so when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, oppose, abstain, or not entitled. Tanya Arias,
Absolutely in favor.
Jim Collins,
Aye.
B. Disman,
In favor,
Bob Parfin,
In favor.
Marie Lassiter,
In favor.
Rachel Patel,
In favor.
and Steve Perez.
In favor.
With all 7 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
Now we'll move on to the next intro. I mean, there's several of these, and I don't know if we want to go to the resolution that you prepared, Jesus, or if you wanted to give just an overview of where things stand with these.
I mean, I can talk about sort of what they seem to seek to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was 1065. We've got two intros, pre-considered intros, I'm sorry, I keep saying 3396 and 3605. They are both seeking to create offices of community board support. One of them would be housed under the auspices of each borough president, and another would be under the auspices of DCAS, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. They're the agency that does things like find agencies office space or administer trainings and things like that. The one under the borough presidents would deal with providing support for information technology, community planning, human resources, legal assistance. It doesn't necessarily mention administrative services, which is what I might recommend adding in. I know Steve wonders whether maybe a needs assessment could be done. In our talking with the city about this, I would worry that the appetite to put that much effort into it is not there. But that's sort of my impression. That's why I think, maybe saying perhaps including these other things, like these specific things under administrative help would be useful. But the one about a community board support office within DCAS is really super interesting. It's a super short intro. It doesn't have much detail. But I would probably recommend us putting in there something to the effect of allow the city to approve community board spaces that are larger than the ones they approve now. Right now, they approve about 1,500 square feet, and that's about it. I would say something more like 5,000 square feet, where then DNS would be, and OMB would be enabled to approve a space that could house offices, that could house meeting spaces, which would give community boards the flexibility to have their meetings without interference from venues, would always have a place to go. And if they needed to be nimble and have a meeting within relatively short notice, they would be able to do that, because sometimes community issues require that. But so those two are, I think, related because they both have to deal with community board support offices.
Did I miss them? I don't, did you send them out
We sent links out today.
today?
What time? Cause I only saw the one that came at 10:03.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, these were all in the same,
They
the
were-
first two we discussed
And the
were in the
wrestler,
same
the
email.
wrestler one,
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all.
Lincoln wrestler.
Yeah,
There's another one, another pre-considered one, so it doesn't have a conditional number. It's T 2025-3330. It seems innocuous enough. It would require community boards to send out a monthly newsletter, which we already do. We already do. You know, there are some boards actually that we've heard from, just informally, that have resources questions about this, that, you know, they have fewer staff than even we do. They have, you know, monetary concerns. And they're not, we are able to make it work, but it's not entirely unjustified. Just for example, the email service that we use to send out our newsletter costs us about $1,000 a year. When our OTPS, but B knows very well what our OTPS budget, our operations budget is. And that's not an insignificant percentage of that. So, you know, I would hope that more money will come along for community boards, and not every board has the same budget. So there are boards that have less money than we do. So that's, while it seems innocuous, those are some concerns that I know some boards have voiced. The video conferencing element of that, there's an element in this that meetings have to be video conferenced, can also be problematic because we're able to make it work. But again, if you don't have the appropriate, we've been in spaces where internet is not good. It's very difficult. You know, the feed has gone down, even in some of our usual spaces. If you want to provide a good digital hybrid experience for the public, you need the resources to do it. And you need not just money, but you need to train district managers and staff how to do it properly. You know, we have to be location scouts, we have to be AV techs, we have to be HR people, we have to be everything. So we need that training. We're happy to learn, but we need support to do it. Another one is 3608 in relation to amending the charter to regarding appointment dates, community board training, and qualifications. This affects members, not the staff. Essentially, it means it would change the date of appointment from April 1st, which is what it is now, which I don't think any borough president has actually adhered to since Scott Stringer. It would change it to August 15th. I'm not sure practically that would work well because we use the summer to train the newbies. If the members start on August 15th, yes, I guess, you know, they're you know, prepared. They're going to be ready to attend the September full board meetings, but they will not have had any chance for training. So I'm not so sure August 15th is a good date, maybe something like July 1st, but that's one of the things this intro would do. Another thing is it would make it a requirement that you cannot be appointed to a community board unless you have attended one board meeting. That seems reasonable enough. I would have thought everyone would have wanted to do that anyway, but that's not the case. I'm concerned as to how they will prove that. Like, let's say someone slips into a meeting and they don't sign in, and then we have no real record.
Right.
It's whose word against who. So I think that should be
What
specified.
about people who register online? Would you have record of
Yeah,
that?
we have record of that.
So
But
you
if
have
they come
record
in,
of
if they come in person and don't actually sign in,
Right.
we would have no record of
yeah,
that.
like if they
Okay.
Zoom, then we would know.
And then also it would call on the borough president to offer training for newly appointed board members who have not previously served as board members, but it doesn't really specify what kind of training. And at least the borough president of Manhattan offers
Yeah.
training. It has and has done since Gail's time. And so that's what that intro would do. There's another one that we've already spoken about, the EEO one, and there is 1134. That one pertains to the collection of race and ethnicity data by agencies. In reading this, I'm wondering whether this even applies to us because we don't actually collect any of that information
Right.
from our public, only from the members. But maybe Steve has some concerns that it might apply to us.
Well, it's just like thinking of theoretical examples, if you're gonna be doing a survey, for example, you would want to collect ethnic and all kinds of demographic data. Maybe we haven't done one in the past, but it would make sense in a survey to do that, to collect that data or information. And
Although we have done surveys.
We've done plenty of surveys, we've never collected that.
Yeah.
we should be collecting ethnicity information. I mean, just basic surveys, they ask you your age, they're gonna ask you all of that.
Yep.
But this
information,
is specific to race and ethnicity, and I'm just a little surprised that this is coming up now since there's that anti-DEI movement going around, how this fits in.
Well, we were discussing earlier, so this is being proposed by council member Krishnan, who represents, I think, one of the most diverse areas.
Some Jackson
And
Heights.
So I think probably, speculating that it has to do with making sure that services are getting delivered equally to people. And so, if they're submitting service requests, are they getting equal responses? I'm just guessing maybe that's why, but go ahead.
So at our last meeting, we had the Commission on Racial Equity come speak, and that was something that was a
Yeah.
ballot proposal, and they're collecting this data already, and they have that report, so. And I mean, I'm sorry, because I already said this to you, earlier, but I feel like this is a bit redundant,
I
because
do.
we have core.
True.
Chorus collecting it already, I don't,
Yeah,
From all agencies.
yeah, it was in the last meeting,
but how would the agencies know if the agencies aren't collecting it?
so apparently what they told us at that last meeting, she said the agencies have all already collected it, there's a report, and the holdup of the report is
We're just
Mayor
waiting for the
Adams.
mayor to.
Mayor's
post
Adams,
it.
and then we actually, I drafted a resolution, but then we decided to say we want the mayor to release it, and then we just wrote a letter instead, yeah.
So
I still don't see how core can collect data that the board's not collecting. We were talking before the meeting started. That if somebody calls in and has a service request, we don't request any data from them.
No, so core doesn't do it, they mandated that the agencies have to do it, so all the agencies are doing it.
right, every city
Yeah.
agency is required to develop these plans
And
And
submit a
report
report.
on it.
And
Are
submit
you
a
guys
report.
considered a city agency? Because city agency is a defined term within the
are.
code.
Community boards are city agencies.
We are the agency. Now, if there is a requirement that we collect this information, I can tell you that has not been communicated to the community boards, and we are not doing that now. We
Okay.
have never once in the almost decade that I've been here requested demographic information from any member of the public.
But this would force us to do it.
This seems to only, it seems to outline how to do it, but only for those agencies that are collecting this information from the public. We don't collect it from the public. So if we don't collect it from the public, I'm not sure how this applies to us. Now, if there's a separate directive that we need to collect this from the public, then that needs to be communicated to the community boards, because I don't know of any other community board that does
Yeah.
this.
I would run it by the corporation council, because it doesn't sound like anything that you have done. And I'm not familiar with community boards being a city agency, because I've looked at that statute. And I don't recollect seeing community boards listed as like DEC or what is it, the agency that does economic
EDC,
development
yeah.
agency is not considered a city agency.
Yeah, because that's an independent
Yeah.
corporation, though.
Right.
Community boards is slightly different, but the woman who spoke to us from core last time clearly didn't think we were an agency. We didn't have this data. There was I've seen reports though that show you demographic data by community board in New York City. I think I've seen
I
that.
believe-
Yeah.
I believe
It's all over the
But
place.
it's-
You can, you can Google it online.
Department of City Planning puts out such data.
Yeah.
And.
From the census.
It's informed by the
Yes,
census.
yeah.
And I believe there's legislation passed by the city council some years ago that requires borough presidents to put together demographic information on community boards. We do that, we're not required to, but we do that internally just to keep track to see that we're, reflecting the district as the data shows it. So we do that already, but it's only for the members. Never once have we ever asked any member of the public who is engaged with us for any reason, any kind of demographic information.
But is this for the members of community boards or for the community at large?
This says data
People
collected by
requesting services.
agencies from residents. Now,
We
you
don't have
guys,
the capacity to do this.
I would be concerned about adding yet one more thing for the public to have to fill out.
Mm.
Already it's, they want to do it fast and they want to get it done as painlessly as possible. I don't know that I would consider you all residents because you are here as in your capacity as members of the
Yeah.
board. You're internally part of this agency.
And you're collecting that information.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, B.
We can't hear you
You're on
either.
mute.
Now I can unmute me. So I have a real problem with the burden that this may create. Having done a number of these, working with census and other things, you evaluate what this will actually cost you in resources to do and what you do analytically with it. And I do agree, you try to evaluate equality of service, that we're treating all ethnic groups and all ages equally. But if you listen to what Jesus just said about add-ons for the community boards with the processes and stuff, I have a real concern as to where we're going to get the revenue to deal with all of this. And knowing, and you'll hear tomorrow, we're very close on our budget this year. As a matter of fact, we might even be over. So to make these mandates without any budgetary items or consideration of burden, I think is very difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, all of these things are sort of presented as a package, and I'm wondering if the idea is, all of these extra support services, which are supposed to be coming to the community boards, is now sort of essentially pairing with the extra mandate, and that you will be getting the extra support, but there's not enough really written in the legislation yet for us to be able to tell exactly how it will play out.
Yeah, but I do think it's also interesting, just the sponsors too, because unlike our community board, all three of these community boards are in these council members' district have a problem with who's on those boards and who's in their community. And there's been tensions in that aspect, which we have not had.
But this, at least according to my reading of this intro, this doesn't really have to do with the demographics of the community board members themselves. It
Yeah,
has to do with collection of data of those of the public
Yeah.
residents, as they call it, who interact with the community board. And that is something we have never done here.
I mean, let's pay attention to the hearing. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of this will be
Yeah.
clarified as the questions come up in the
Yeah.
city council hearing next week. So, go ahead, Tommy.
So it's a collection of information of residents that interact with us.
Yes.
It's not collecting
Everybody.
information of everyone.
Yeah.
So,
If we have forms that they have to fill out.
so
they-
if,
they-
so
Yeah.
let's say that you're registering for a meeting via Zoom. It's gonna ask you your name, yada, yada. Is it going to have a drop down
Yeah.
that says your race, your ethnicity?
Yeah.
yeah, I think,
Sounds-
I think that's what they wanna do, and that's why I mentioned what's happening in those communities, because I feel like they're trying to see if everybody in the community is getting the services they need or not everybody, and that's why they want this data. I mean, I don't know, this is.
I mean, it can be done that way, but then you'd have to spend an awful lot of money in technology to design the form that way. And
What-
and when they're signing in, are you gonna have a column that says race, ethnicity, age?
Are they able to opt out of that as well? Can they-
Yeah, you have to be, you
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
you
You
can't.
have to
require
be
people
able
this.
to opt out.
But why not do
Typically
it
it's
on
not.
the, I'm sorry, why not just do it on an exception basis? If somebody calls up and complains to whoever, to the community board or to an elected official, whatever, and says, I'm not being serviced, then ask their demographic information so that this particular member of this community is not being well served. And then if you look at all of those, look at those exceptions after, say, a quarter, and you see that whatever group of people is not being well served, then hit them up. Then address whatever the issue is. Maybe you got a bigot working in your community board.
I think it's more about people even knowing that they can go to the community board.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you presume
So-
that they,
No, but a lot of people don't know. They don't.
My reading of this legislation is, as many pieces of legislation that don't specifically target
Mhm.
community boards, is it's written for like other
Agencies.
kinds of.
Yeah.
Other kinds of agencies. We are agencies, we have an agency number, we have an agency budget. We're considered agencies, as far as OMB is concerned. But, it says, we're supposed to, if this goes through, we are supposed to reiterate or relate to the public that their delivery of services, their receiving services will not be impacted by any of the information they give to us. So whether the whole meeting, like when you're registering for a meeting, that's an interesting question that I don't know the answer to. I would like clarity on that. Because personally, I think it would be very off-putting to have that
It is.
every single time you sign up for a meeting. We have like 11 a month. So that's a lot, but that's, I'm not speculating as to why this is coming up. But it's not anything we've really tussled with a lot here. I mean, this board, the members' demographic hews pretty closely to what the census say this district is. And.
And there's a lot of sponsors on this.
They wanted to do it for the police a while ago. I don't remember what the outcome was. They wanted, any time that a police officer had any kind of interaction with the public, even if somebody was asking directions, they would have had to provide their demographic data. Now, whether this is an extension of that, and I think that either died or the mayor vetoed it. I don't remember. But this looks like an extension of the same thing.
And the thing is that when you try to define yourself, and that's always something that's been interesting for me, I'm Cuban, but my race is white. So
Mhm.
what do? Do you put white? Do you put Hispanic? Do you
Yeah.
put, it's really, it's
My boys are Asian American.
only, it's like, it's
tricky.
really tricky. It's
Look-
really tricky.
Personally, it's tricky for me because oftentimes, like, I have to put white
Yeah.
because I'm not black and I'm not Asian and I'm not Native American. And so,
Same here. Same issue. Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that we are all mutts. Race wise, I did my gene pool.
You did at 24, yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm FBI.
Yeah. I mean, I just
Full-blooded
bring up a good
Irish.
question. We last meeting talked to this person who said that they're collecting this exact same data with the agency, so I don't know.
Yeah, we just had a 2-hour
Yeah.
presentation. That's why the minutes were so long. It was like almost an hour and a half presentation.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I would say, like, let's table this and see what comes out of the city council
Yeah,
hearing.
we
I think
too.
we're gonna get a lot more clarity.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna kill it.
Yeah.
And
I
there's,
mean, all of the intro.
there's one left to discuss, which is intro 1250.
yes, 1250 would require that bylaws for public bodies like borough board or community boards be published on the organization's websites. It looks innocuous enough, we already do that.
Yeah, that's not.
So, apparently some don't, maybe that's why this is. There is a great variation in the quality of community board websites, especially no shade to the outer boroughs, but especially the deeper reaches of the outer boroughs that you go. They're really sparse. I believe until recently, one community board out in Brooklyn did not even have a website. So maybe that's where this is coming from, but
So maybe a better thing would be to establish certain guidelines
Yeah, that's a template.
for all, and a template for all of the community boards, so that so there is a uniform tablet, a uniform template, sorry, for every community board website. That should be more of a
The
requirement.
city does provide one if you want it. We
No,
chose-
we don't want it. You need to require it.
Yeah, it provides one if you need one, but many boards like we do choose to design one.
I actually think it should be a requirement.
It just, you know, if you're conducting business in the city, having a uniform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Format would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
People that, you know, oh, I'm opening I don't know, I'm opening a Wendy's, for example, in Greenwich Village. I'm from out of town and you know, I have this franchise. I'm doing one in the village, I'm doing one in Midtown, I'm doing one on the Upper West Side, and I've gotta go hit separate community boards, search all around for whatever their rules are. It impedes the flow of commerce in my view, but
So maybe
I
if
agree.
all of this gets fleshed out, what we should do is write a resolution, asking for all of the community boards to have the same template for their websites, that puts the bylaws, then it puts, I know you're starting to twitch a little bit, but.
I'm starting to twitch, having done the
Oh,
bylaws.
Sandy's got a question.
Andy, we spent a lot of money on our website. You know, what we thought was user friendly and was,
Yeah.
transmitted information. Actually, some of the new members actually complimented our website on how.
It's a great website.
So, and there are template ones that you can take a look at. So I'm not sure we want to just say that it has to.
No, I'm not talking about the look of the website. I'm talking about the information that needs to be.
Then you get into more.
Well, that's what this
Yeah.
intro will do. This
Yeah.
intro will require in the charter that the bylaws need to be on the website.
I think that's very logical.
So Jesus, you know, a lot of the community boards don't even have bylaws. You know, when we did the bylaws
Yeah.
and we went looking, you
Right.
can't compare all, I will say this because Jesus said it before. You can't compare some of the Manhattan community boards with some of your outer boroughs. If you really look at it, it is night and day. And so my big problem with all of this is you're not dealing with the totality of what you want the community boards to do, and you have fragmented pieces. That's why I think the hearing and any more explanation. So I would hesitate commenting on anything more until we got some more details and really see what they're trying to do. And I would not standardize the websites.
Again, I think it's kind of like in the nascent stage right now, and they're trying to figure out what kind of extra support these support offices are gonna provide to community boards in conjunction with these new requirements. So I think they're kind of wrestling through
The
that.
support offices, I agree. I mean, I wrote an op-ed for Cranes, I guess it was, in 2019 to have the public office of the public advocate. This is back when we were doing the charter reforms, and have the office of the public advocate provide legal counsel, land use counsel, bunch of other stuff back then. And, you know, if they want to do it through the borough president, that's fine. I didn't think the public advocate was particularly busy. So. I mean, I fully support that notion, and also getting some land use interns, you know, people that we've had.
Okay, so what I think I'd like to suggest is that we monitor what's happening at this hearing. I'm glad we have the discussion. We're all aware of what's happening, but let's see what happens with the city council hearing. We have already passed a resolution against one of the intros, which is the most problematic one. And then perhaps we come back to this once we know more.
Sorry, what was the hearing?
The 16th, it's a Monday, the 16th, so is that next week?
Yeah, next Monday.
Yeah, next
Monday
Monday.
the 16th?
Yeah.
And Brendan, maybe we can send out
Yeah, can you please?
the
link?
the new info, I guess,
And,
about the hearing. that's
and
happening.
can you send the video when it's concluded? It's just, the hearings usually go on forever.
I'll try and remember to,
Yeah.
unless things have changed in the last couple of years, usually it takes a day or two after the.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're not meeting again until September, right? So we'll have plenty of time to, and they're not gonna vote on any of this stuff by then.
It's not,
Presumably.
it's not clear. We were talking to, Councilmember Powers' office, regarding some of these. And they were thinking, as far as the timing is concerned, they would be surprised if any vote happened before July. After this hearing happens, the next stated meeting is June 30th, which will be taken up by the budget.
Yeah.
And it's their thinking that it's unlikely that other things will come up at that meeting. So then they would have to wait to a stated meeting sometime in July. So it could be that we come back in September and some of these things are passed. But again, I know there are other community boards that are testifying on these things, so perhaps it's not the end of the world if we don't. But especially the ones about the community board office supports, support offices. I would like some more information on those. I think that would be helpful since there are elements of that, especially the one about office space that we have asked for.
Is anyone here going to the hearing?
I would like to go to the hearing, and if Sandy offers her permission, I would like to testify, or she can, if she wants to. But if I'm allowed to, I'd like to testify. Other boards, chairs and district managers will be testifying.
Great.
But I can only testify on what you pass. So I can testify on the district manager one. I can testify on anything we've said before relating to space. We've said a lot of things relating to space. But if you guys don't pass a resolution or any of the other stuff, it's not really appropriate for me to articulate positions of the board that do not exist.
But we
Not
can
to
all
put-
write
not to
written
put-
testimony if we want to,
As individuals,
as individuals,
as
yeah.
individual citizens, you can write on whatever you like.
Okay.
Great. Any other comments on that before we move on? Okay. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion of the land acknowledgement resolution. So we had. Oh, yes, Spencer, thank you for joining us. The rest, you're welcome to stay or to leave.
Got you. Thank you all for having me. Happy to answer any questions. I've been taking notes, so I'll be sure to relay any feedback to the team as well.
Terrific.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Spencer.
joining us.
Thank
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Of course. Have a good evening all.
You too.
Great, so we can move on to the land acknowledgement. I know, so this is the resolution we passed last month. We wanted to revisit this, because we had some discussions at executive committee, and then we also wanted to maybe modify it. So Rashma, I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, so I
Talk about
modified that based
information.
on those discussions from here as well as executive committee meeting. I don't know if oh yeah, it's up there, so I don't need to pull it up.
Yeah,
So we took out language of it, and you can see it's in purple, basically the changes.
can you read it? I can't. read it. Oh,
Can we lighten the draft watermark? Maybe that would make it easier, or remove it temporarily, we'll put it back.
Yeah, let me figure out, where do I go to?
It's under insert. Watermark. You can either make it really light or you can remove it.
I'll remove it for now.
it's
Yeah, thank
transparency.
you for helping me, man. Clearly I don't do watermarks, Google Docs.
What is it? What
you
are
want
you
to read it?
proposing we actually say? That's what I wanna get to.
And Brendan, could you move the little text box up so that we can?
So we're not proposing anything to say, it's basically saying that we'll work with the, I'll just read the whole thing. That CB6 will work with the Lenape community and draft a land acknowledgement to be used for its website and or certain meetings.
have they approached us at all and requested this? the Lenape?
So we spoke to someone who,
Did we reach out or did they reach out to us is my question.
Neil Barclay had been in touch with this person. He connected us to them.
He reached out to them.
Yes, I mean, he somehow knew them from Stuyvesant newspaper.
And I think I made this clear when we first raised this. I'm vehemently opposed to this. And first of all, from you're bringing in a Western what's the word I'm looking for? A Western construction of land being ownership. Natives, when they occupied this territory, didn't consider it to be owned. They considered it the same as water or air or anything else. So you're imposing a Western construct on something that they themselves never had. The language that I saw originally sounded somewhat to me like a prayer, which I thought was offensive. And the whole thing to me smacks of, I think the psychiatrists call it narcissistic altruism. It's the sort of thing that says, it's like, being, I'm a good person, you're not a good person because you didn't say this word. And it's bogus, and I find it extremely offensive to even be discussing this. It's not something that a community board should be dealing with.
Well, I just want to say that we spoke to some Lenape people and they are not offended by this, so let's.
Did they request it?
They did not request it.
Right.
Yes, but it is not offensive to them. Wait, can I just finish?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. It is not an offensive idea.
It's a Marxist idea, for one thing. If you look at the Marxist websites, they are all for this. They are all for it. I sent it around to a couple of people. And
I'm only correcting the statement that you're assuming, and you're basically saying that by definition, they will be offended by this.
No.
That is not correct.
Well,
we have spoken to people who represent the Lenape Nation, so.
My high school teams, my wrestling team, my football team, all of that, were the Salamanca Warriors. All right. New York State came in and said, oh, you have to change your name. Well, guess what? The Salamanca Warriors are in a town that is entirely located on Indian territory. The Senecas, a Seneca artist created our mascot. He created the artwork for our mascot, which is an Indian head. You have, the whole thing stinks. I'm offended by it.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, at the last time we visited this resolution, I abstained. But I have to agree with, not on the offensive side of Jim, I just don't feel comfortable with this, and I'll tell you why I don't feel comfortable. As I said in my prior comment on it, it just doesn't ring true to me. It rings to me like a platitude. We've covered this land with cement. We really have violated this land. We're not good stewards of this land. So what we're doing is it's just words. I'm so sorry. If we had taken this land and in conjunction with the Lenapes had developed it in a way that made all of us happy to live here, and all of us had a part in the development and the taking care of this land, I would be for it. But right now, we're telling them, yes, we are going to be good stewards of this land while we continually violate the land.
So I'll say, can I say?
Yeah, go ahead,
So we haven't actually said that. We've taken that out because what in talking to the Lenape, as Steve mentioned, we would work with them to develop this. Now, when we originally had this idea, right, and we voted on this, I don't know if we vote again because of the amendment, right? Because, you know, if people don't want it, it's fine, you know, with me. But when we originally talked about how lots of cultural institutions are doing it, including the, you know, the Streetport Museum where you work. Some other people mentioned, you know, and the reason why this even started happening at educational cultural institutions is because there was a movement by Indigenous people to have this acknowledgement that this was land that was stolen. And the acknowledgement that unless you came here on slave ships, you are a migrant here. And when some people think they deserve to be here more than other people, then, you know.
If that's what you're arguing, that's.
Jim, I haven't
I'm just giving you the background
Jim, I
because
haven't
people,
recognized you.
yeah, I'm just giving the background for how this has come about. If you go to Lincoln Center, you go to Public Theater, lots of places do this acknowledgement.
The other thing I want to say is a lot of what we do as a community board, I think, so we're different, a little bit different from cultural institutions in that I've seen this land acknowledgement on, I mean, I went and looked at a lot of different websites and I've seen it used in a lot of different, the Pratt Institute, like a lot of other, I attended UC Berkeley's main graduation in their entire stadium. It began with a land acknowledgement at the UC Berkeley graduation. So I was like, okay, there are other people are doing this. Those institutions have money, resources, right, to fund programs. So they do more. You know, they have, they sort of mainstream it, shall we say, into a lot of their programming, for instance, or they have special programs. We're a community board.
Right.
We don't have a budget. So all we really have are our words, right? And so I think kind of this communication and acknowledgement, one of the things that we do is we help educate the community about things that have happened in our history and our past. And you would be surprised, there are people, especially new immigrants here, who do not know US history and are surprised by the fact that this land was actually belonged to Native Americans. You'd be surprised. So I think part of it is just about acknowledging it and then, you know, in the right way. And in the way that many institutions, this is not an outlier. There are city agencies that also do this. So this is not like something that is really strange. It's something that's relatively mainstream at this point. So that's what I want to say about it. Go ahead.
If you want to do something for the natives, why don't we put a resolution together to call for the rescission of the amendment to the state constitution that allowed white companies to locate casinos downstate, because the casinos upstate that are all owned by natives are going to suffer the loss of business from casinos like the one that's currently proposed on the east side. That's meaningful. That affects people.
Yeah.
This is nonsense. This is just, it's, you know, like I say, not narcissistic altruism and or virtue signaling, whatever term you prefer. I don't like it at all.
Can I ask
Go
a
ahead, Aziz.
process question? With I'll call it an amendment, with this proposed amendment, a question I think I may foresee is that someone will ask, okay, when this work with the Lenape community is done and a draft acknowledgement is arrived at, is there gonna be another reso to run that by the community board, or is this sort of tacit approval of whatever that is? And if there is gonna be another reso, might it be worth considering waiting until this draft, whatever it may be, is actually ready? And then,
So we kind of envision this as a two-stage process, because if there's no support for this, there's no point in working with the Lenape community to draft a resolution.
Okay.
So we want to get the sign off of the committee and the board first to say the idea of having this. Once we have that, then we'll do another resolution, which would be the formal adoption of the language, which would be done in collaboration with the Lenape.
And so how does this work? Because now that we've made a change to it, do we do another vote? Because someone can just propose, they don't want to pass, like another vote, and then we don't have to pass it.
so you guys passed it once,
But yeah,
and it's supposed to go to full board.
yeah.
At full board, here, if you
Okay.
want to make an amendment, you can do it here. It'd probably be cleaner to do it here
Yes.
to make an amendment. And then this version would go to full board.
Right.
And at that
So
point,
there's not another vote, because this is my proposal, right, for an amendment.
you would
Yeah.
vote to adopt this amendment.
Yeah.
And just for good measure, I would vote again to adopt this thing as amended.
Okay, yeah.
And then it goes to full board. At full board, other amendments can be proposed. But typically you guys don't do that. And then it goes up or down vote and it'll either succeed or it'll fail.
B, go ahead, you have your.
So I had originally supported this and when we had the initial discussion. And I wasn't at the meetings where this came into a lot of criticism and Jim's comments really are too extreme for a community board meeting. So I'm gonna say that to Jim. But I do have a problem. If we're gonna work with the community and draft acknowledgement, it's almost like you're giving the board a half a package and you have to come back again. So my question is, why wouldn't we work with them and see what language we come up with and come up with one resolution that handles the whole thing? That's my question.
B, I'll
On
answer that.
privilege, on privilege,
Sorry,
on
I have the
privilege,
floor and I haven't
on
recognized
personal
you.
privilege, we follow Robert's rules here, sorry. Can you explain to me what you thought, what comment of mine you thought was too extreme for our community board?
The comment that you talked about narcissistic, and I
It
take it,
is
well, we have
narcissistic altruism.
we have
It's
two
a real thing.
disagreements. We have two disagreements, but anyway, I was
But that's
talking
not,
about
it's not
resolution.
extreme, it's an acknowledged fact. I mean, you can look it up in the psychiatric manuals. It's in the
I'm not-
DSM, I believe.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I want to deal with the resolution.
Oh, no.
So B, to answer your question, we understand that there's a fee involved in working with drafting this. So and if the board isn't gonna support this, again, there's no point in kind of going through the process and the work and paying the fee and kind of stringing them along, saying we're
What,
gonna
can
develop
you
a
explain
resolution.
what you mean by a fee?
So typically there's like an honorarium that goes to the tribe
Oh,
for these kinds of so that is kind of part of but regardless of that, I think it's kind of doesn't make sense to work on language.
How much?
When nobody's going to, if, for example, the idea of this resolution is overwhelmingly, not supported, then we would not want to work on a language with the Lenape Nation.
How much?
It's a very modest amount from what we understand, so.
A number? Do you have a number?
It's like revealing budget information in public, so I'm not gonna reveal the information right now.
Well, I'm not gonna vote for it if you're not gonna.
We know you're not gonna vote for it, Jen, no matter what, so
No, I won't.
it's irrelevant.
so Steve, could you just say, in order to work with groups, they require an honorarium?
That's what we understand, correct?
Thank you.
I just want to know, you're saying also in working with the Lenape that there's going to be a kind of input as to the language that will be used, is that correct?
Correct.
In terms of Jim's objection, I do agree in terms of our history in Manhattan, that Native Americans were giving permission of usage of natural resources. It wasn't as if the concept was not of selling the land, but sharing in the usage, so that is a form of community. Is there any way that rather than our calling it land acknowledgement, that some of that can be incorporated, that perhaps we didn't do that 400 years ago, but that our aim is that in the communal usage of this land, that we recognize that their original concept is part of what we should be doing now, something of that nature, as to just incorporate that. Would you be more amenable to that? It's just in terms of the concept. I've always known throughout this history that whenever they said, oh, Native Americans sold Manhattan for, whatever it was, I knew that was not true. In my own education, that was the concept that they were recognizing the uses of natural resources, and they were granting usage, not ownership of the resources. So is there any way that that could be integrated into it? Because I'm in favor of something being done, but the way that we're talking about it does not reflect the original history. And our objections now are to what we didn't do in terms of recognizing the community usage of the natural resources. So that could be incorporated in some way. And maybe that would be more amenable in terms of the past history and what we should be doing now in recognizing all of the community. That's my question.
It's a very good point. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean,
Thank you.
oh,
Sorry, it seems to me you're making a budget request. So this should be part of the budget discussion. Since you're saying that in order to do this, we have to pay a fee. So this should be part of the budget request.
Who would be paying that fee? Would it be the community board?
The community.
community board,
And for
yeah.
what purpose do the Lenape use it?
I was not involved in the discussions.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just as background, Robert did share the land acknowledgement that the museum that he works at used, and that does have a lot of more stuff in it. And we obviously do want to copy that and put it in here, but it has some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Well, just the sentiment because of the objection of what we've done with the land. Yes, but the whole concept from the beginning was not that they were selling land. They were granting usage of natural resources to another community, I'll say another community. That's what originally happened.
Yeah.
So are they, and they're also going to be involved in the language of this that would only be probably one sentence that we're talking about here,
Mhm.
but they would be approving that, that perhaps that would be more amenable to the parties in our committee that want to abstain or do not agree with it.
Correct.
Of having the
Are you
rest.
suggesting that we change it, the terminology
In
here
some way,
so
it's
that we
not-
don't call it a land acknowledgement?
Right, or that it was originally a sense of community that evolved into the taking of land, but that the original, recognizing their original concept in the beginning, in terms of being part of community
Mhm.
in some way.
Communal use of land, something like that. Rational review.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a motion to just shelf this because it's become way more complicated. I only wrote it because people said they wanted to do it. And frankly, it's too much discussion and it complicates it with the fee thing too.
I would second that. That's your motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just vote on tabling this.
Okay,
So Brendan,
Brendan.
Yeah.
Has been pulled.
So when I call your name, please say whether you table or don't table. Tanya Arias.
Table, please.
Jen Collins.
Table.
B Dismond.
Table, please.
Rob Parfin.
Cable.
Ava Marie Lassiter.
Don't table.
Rachel Patel.
table.
And Steve Perez.
Abstain.
Okay, so 4 committee members want this tabled, 2 do not want this tabled, 1 abstained from the tabling vote. Which means that this matter is tabled.
How does that work in terms of does that just come off of the agenda and then we don't have anything, we don't have to do anything else?
You don't have to do anything else. We'll remove it from the agenda.
I grew up on Indian land and we paid a lease to the Seneca Nation of Indians. I mean, if you want to talk about something like that, something substantive, that's great. You want to pay the Lenape, I don't know, a couple of $1 million a year, maybe half a billion or whatever. That's substantive. That makes sense. But just mouthing these words is the most absurd thing I ever heard.
Okay, I think you've made your point, Jim.
Yeah,
But
and
moving on.
you're welcome to make a resolution proposal for any of those things. People definitely want reparations, and we
I was
talked about
just-
that,
I was
and we
just
talked
gonna
about
bring
that
that
in
up,
this
yeah.
community board too.
Well, we, yeah.
Yeah, and
My
I'm all for
hometown, we-
reparations, yeah.
My
I did have a
hometown,
couple
we
million
used our
dollars.
lease, and the renegotiation of the lease was a very.
Okay, let's
very
move on. I'm
difficult
ending this
process.
discussion. We're
I know
moving
you
on.
lost, Steve, I'm sorry.
I don't understand why we need to.
Yeah, this is not a fight, it's a civil discussion.
We're moving on to the next agenda item, please. Charter revision commissions.
It's more
Ooh,
like
those
it.
are,
So,
those are woozy.
yeah, so unfortunately, we did have a lot of coming at us this month, and we actually already considered even not having a meeting this month, but then we had all of these come up, so it's a good thing we decided to have a meeting. So I asked everyone to look at the two different charter, we have two competing charter revision commissions. One from, just like last
Yeah,
year,
just like.
we have the mayors, and then we have the city council, so it also creates its own set of confusion, because it's trying to keep track of which commission is reporting on which things, so we had two reports. We shared them with everyone on the committee. Well, what I didn't get a ton of feedback from everyone about the kinds of topics that everyone wanted to discuss here. But for those of you who did, thank you for sending your suggestions. But what I thought we would do here as a committee, because recalling what happened last year, the mayor's commission takes precedence over anything that the city council comes up with. So I decided, let's prioritize what's in the mayor's report first, because, I mean, both of these commission reports cover a gamut of issues that would take hours and weeks to talk about. So let me just go through very quickly, the mayor's charters revision commission. Number one talks about housing and land use, but let's defer that to our other committees. Issue 2 is elections and voter turnout, and that is the draft resolution which you all received. Issue 3 is procurement and payments, which we talked a little bit about in this committee before, but don't really have time to get into a deep discussion on it. 4 is climate and infrastructure, and 5 is the city map. So of those issues, the one that was sort of the most top of mind and more pertinent to our committee was the election and voter turnout. And so I felt like that was the one that we could tackle, and also probably not have it be super controversial. So that is, Brendan, I don't know if you can pull up the resolution that we shared with the group.
Yes, I have it right here.
And this is essentially the proposal in the charter speaks about moving to even number year elections. Because as you all know, our city, government local elections happen on odd years currently.
Right.
Off cycle from the other national and federal elections. So the argument here is moving to even numbered years would really boost voter turnout and would also save approximately $42 million every 2 years.
Right.
So there was a lot of evidence here about why it would make sense. The other thing is that the city council also had passed a resolution in 2023 calling on the state legislature to move to even numbered years. So this is something that also has support of even local elected leaders. So I just wanted to open it up then for discussion from others, how they felt about this proposal and the resolution that we're asking for the legislature to consider passing this and moving local elections to the even numbered years. Go ahead.
You're gonna turn the ballots into like the AP calculus exam for a lot of these people. You've got ranked choice voting, plus you've got all the national and state election. It's gonna be too much for the average voter, I think.
Ranked choice voting is only for the.
Say again, I can't hear you.
Ranked voting,
Ranked
Ranked
choice.
choice.
choice voting only for the primaries.
That I don't know,
No,
cause
it
I
is-
only
it-
vote in the generals.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
a
only for
Republican.
primaries, and it's only for city elections. It is not for state.
Right.
It's not for state elections.
So
But-
that's not an issue.
Yeah, but in the primaries, we will have more people running, as Jim pointed out, it's not completely invalid, but it won't be in the general.
Yeah, and the study showed that the payoff you get from vast many more people voting is far outweighs the small number of people who might not complete the entire ballot because it's getting wrong, let's say. So
I mean, you get people that don't complete the ballot now.
Well, I actually, I agree with this resolution. I think it's a great idea. And the more people we can get out to vote, the better. And if we save money, even better.
I was surprised, actually, I went back through all of CB6, the history, because I've only been on the board now for 2 years, and I thought maybe the board has already commented on this because it's been an issue, but we've never passed a resolution about this, so I just thought now it makes sense, it's in the chart, like the charter is considering this revision, so we should speak about it.
And this is the mayor's.
This is the mayor's, and the city, I'll briefly describe what the city says about it, but go ahead, everybody.
I'm in favor of it also because of the savings, but also it said that in the odd years, the percentage of people that come out and vote is between 10 and 23%. If it is all on even, they're going to focus on the state, or if it's for the presidency, but I think they'll pay more attention to the candidates that are in the city, because I know that one particular mayor, I believe, of this, of New York City, he won by 700,000 votes. It was so low, or maybe the total vote for that particular odd year was 700,000. And I'm saying a lot of these candidates use being mayor of New York City to run for president. And I'm saying you got to step up with 700,000 people. So to me, in terms of the responsibility of the voter, because they're going to be so focused on the top, they'll pay more attention and invest more in what's happening where they live, because that is such a very low percentage for people to come out on the odd years. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Okay. I like the savings, but I think you're still gonna complicate the ballot.
But ultimately, Jim, people are gonna do what people are gonna do, and if they come out more during during the even years, at least the probabilities are higher. That you'll get more people there. So if they're not going to fill out the entire ballot on odd years, they won't fill it out on even years, but maybe we'll get more people that come out on the even years. So I think the probabilities are.
I never miss an election, but I mean,
Yeah,
I
but-
even vote for the stupid stuff like but.
So I just want to point out that there's two resolves here. One is asking for the New York State Legislature to pass, because it's a parallel process. That's the other complicating factor here. A charter revision at the city level cannot change our elections. You need a state
Yeah, because it's State
constitutional.
Board of Elections.
Yeah, the state constitution mandates that the city hold it in an odd number of years as well. So we need the state legislature to pass, and then the voters to approve in a referendum an amendment to the state constitution that would approve New York City's election to even number of years. That's one component. The second component we're saying is then the second resolve that we call on the New York City Charter Revision Commission to introduce a ballot initiative in the charter that would remove local law rules requiring odd year elections. So it's a bit complicated. And then what complicates this even further is that the city council charter revision commission, when commenting on this, has this to say, and I'm just gonna read it because
Yes, please.
it's funny. I was not familiar with this. They say, this is the staff recommendation from the city council. They say they view the drafting of charter amendments made in anticipation of changes at the state level as premature, as the constitutional amendment process is lengthy and the final amendment could take a variety of forms. Furthermore, if the constitutional amendment and any implementing state legislation require, rather than merely authorize, a move to even numbered years, then there would be no need for a referendum to modify the charter regarding the timing of the elections. However,
Okay.
there is another complication, which is on the mayor's commission, which states that in 2024, a statewide constitutional amendment would give New York City the option to move its local elections to even years. It passed the state Senate, but that a state constitutional amendment would still require an additional citywide referendum
Oh, wow.
approved by New York City to opt in and make the change.
Oh, wow.
So these
Then you have to
two
go through
things
your-
are conflicting to
Yeah.
me, so it seems like one part is saying you need one before the other, but so my point is, I included both of them because I don't think we want to get into the weeds as to the details of how this would happen. We just want to be on record for us saying, we support this. However it needs to happen, we want the state to do their thing, we want the city to do their thing, and let it kind of be there. But that was my thinking, but
That's a very, yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
because we're a community board, we're not legislative experts on how this should play out.
Steve, can I ask the question?
Yeah, go ahead, Dee.
So I'm thinking about if this ever happens, the complications that you just articulated makes it less than 50% that it would happen. But how are they going to deal with the transitional year? Am I going to run for 1 year and then run for, whatever left? How are they handling transition? Did anyone
Yeah.
talk about it?
It's an operational issue, they do mention it, and so there are examples of other states that have done this. And so there are models of how it's done, and typically, you have like one term be a little bit shorter for the next, to catch up to the next election cycle. But it's just something that the laws, once they change them, will have to accommodate for. But it's been done in other places. There's gonna be a transition year where you get on track. But anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead,
and
Rush.
we also do it every 10 years for city council when we have a census adjustment as well, that they have a.
Do we know which states have done it? Just like
I
to
don't
see
recall
what-
off the top of my head.
The one other thing I would like to say, though, if we combine in New York City where we have matching funds for campaigns, so it's all our taxpayer dollars that go fund a lot of campaign. The vendors become much more expensive. When we have an election year where lots of people are running, you end up having, TV ads space gets more expensive, the mailers become more expensive, all of that stuff becomes more expensive, and even staffers. Because there'd be some people who work on election, after election wouldn't be available, so.
Or maybe the best benefit is we get a break from political ads.
Oh, yeah, no, I 100%
Listen,
agree with that.
it's like we're perennially
Yeah,
in elections. It's like, I would like a 2-year of, I don't wanna hear about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it just seems like you're constantly being bombarded. It just never ends, and I think that's part of the apathy that happens, when that people are just overstimulated with this, it's just too much.
Think about that though, in terms of what you just said, being overloaded with the ads. That means the ad costs for those campaigns are going to skyrocket and be more expensive than they are currently, which is going to place a greater demand on fundraising and public matching funds.
Yeah, that's the
Here in
point I
the
was
city.
making. Yeah.
Yeah, again, you will have tens of thousands of more people voting, which at the end of the day,
That's what we want.
that's what we want, is we want people who actually represent the population and not just the very small fraction of people who go and vote in a local.
So how does that impact the budget, I don't know, the budget for the voter portion? I mean, with all the workers that have to come in, sit at the election places, that drives up the cost for that as well, right? So there's a
Yeah.
budget
Right.
impact for
Well,
that.
but that's where the savings are coming from, because we won't have to, like, right now,
Yeah.
in an odd year and even year, we have to set up the poll sites, we gotta
Right.
pay the poll workers, we gotta do the poll worker training.
Right.
But if the state election, the city elections were
It's
happening
all-
at the same time, it'll be all at one time. I was making the point about the matching funds and campaign costs, to say that some of that savings gets offset. But I do believe that our democracy only works if everyone participates, and we need to have more people participate.
I just mean the hourly rates, whatever we're paying for the workers to actually be there, for the, up here, that will go up for 1 year, as opposed to if you stretch it out to every other year, every 2 years.
Yeah, I see your point, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of impact that would have.
But we're all pretty much in agreement that that's a good idea, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
could Oh, Jim just left, but we could vote.
You might be going to the restroom or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to ask was, I did not include the fact that the city council had also passed this resolution. Do we think it's necessary to put in our resolution that as a whereas? That the city
Yeah,
council
I
passed?
think that would,
resolution?
yes.
I did this rather quickly, so I didn't include.
I actually
necessarily
think that that
everything,
would be
but
very useful.
I think it's helpful for people
Yeah.
to know that there is actually local support for this.
Yeah,
So I would suggest we add a whereas.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
absolutely.
Any idea of where you'd like the
Um,
whereas? Oh, maybe over here somewhere?
Yeah, right after, so start with the state and then right after that one. go-
After
and
turnout,
then
yeah.
Yeah, the whereas. This New York City Council. Passed a resolution in. 2023. Calling on the state legislature. To amend the Constitution. Moving New York City elections to. Even numbered years.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
This is great. Good job.
the reason why I didn't put it originally is because I didn't understand how. Resolutions worked in the city council, and all it said was that the resolution was filed. And I was like,
But it doesn't come to
does that
somebody
mean
intro?
it passed? So, yes, I looked it up and it meant they had passed that resolution, so anyway. That's just.
But then nothing
background.
happened with it.
Right, because
Yeah.
it's a
Because it's-
resolution because they don't have the
Power, so it's a
They're
resolution for the state.
advising the state
Yeah.
to do this, so that's why I didn't.
So, I
it's a
mean,
different-
basically what we're doing.
It's not an intro.
Right, yeah,
It's-
basically the same thing
Yeah,
we're doing.
exactly, it's not an intro,
Yeah.
it's a resolution,
Yeah.
so from the city.
Well, when
council,
Jim
but
comes
anyway.
back, oh, there he is.
So, the only other
We have to
thing,
take a vote on
Brendan,
this.
every single letter after whereas is capitalized and it shouldn't be, I think.
Yeah, that's something
You can
that,
just fix the formatting later.
yeah, that's something you can fix either later tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. Do I have any other suggestions that people would like to see?
No, I think it's pretty.
Okay, let's. Someone wanna call a vote?
I make a motion to vote on
I
this
second.
resolution.
Is there a second?
Yep. I second.
Okay, so when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Tanya Arias.
In favor.
Jen Collins.
Abstain.
B. Desmond.
In favor.
Rob Farfan.
In favor.
Ava Marie Lassiter.
In favor.
Rachel Patel.
In favor.
And Steve Perez.
In favor.
With 6 in favor, and no opposed and 1 abstention, this resolution passes.
I have a question if anybody knows. Do you know why the legislature didn't do it for New York City when they did it for the other towns and villages? That's one of the reasons I abstain, because I don't know why.
It's more complicated, I think, legislatively, for whatever, the way that those charters are not, like, the city of New York is a separate entity
Yeah.
with its own thing, so it just became easier for them to do it that way,
To find out.
and, yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Since we're talking about, city charters, I had the incredible pleasure of staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning in Germany, listening to that hearing on the charter revisions, so.
Sorry, which hearing did you attend?
The city council.
The city council.
Yeah, and so there is one thing that I know it doesn't pertain to this committee, but, and I sent it to you on email. The attempt to do away with ULURC is extraordinarily worrisome to me. That is, I think, is just very concerning and should be concerning, and since we're not having a land use meeting until September, I mean, I don't know how we would handle that, but that along with the proposal for the faith-based housing, which they're going to be proposing eliminating all zoning and environmental studies because, they're allowed to do whatever they want. All of this is very concerning to me. And you tell me where that should be dealt with. Should be dealt with land use.
I believe the chair of the land use committee testified on this, on the charter revision.
Yeah,
So I don't know if I haven't read that testimony, so I don't know what he said, but I know we have testified for that.
It was earlier on in the process before we knew exactly what they were proposing for Euler, but it was largely a defense of Euler and how it empowers and amplifies community voices.
I will tell you that everyone that did testify, it was the Municipal Art Society, it was Gail Brewer, it was, you know, a ton of other people. They all defended Euler. But who knows where it's gonna end up.
Yeah, I'll defend it.
Correct.
We can give you a copy of that testimony.
Would you? That would be great. Yeah, I really would like to
Because all
see
the
that.
testimonies are done now on this, right? So is there,
No,
No?
there's still
is
more.
this more? Okay,
Yeah,
I thought
there's
it was-
more. So there are,
So there's still a chance to comment, because you can comment as an individual, even if there's not gonna be a.
I did
Yeah,
send,
Yeah.
I did send a testimony.
Yeah,
that's also the reason why I wanted to pass this resolution, because we
Yeah.
still have an opportunity to
Opportunity.
comment, because I don't know when, once they make their recommendations, then we will
Not,
not be
yeah.
able to comment.
So,
anymore.
yeah.
So that was another reason
no,
why.
that
I
makes
was
sense,
like,
and you actually told me this, and I
Yeah.
forgot, yeah.
But I would love to get a copy of it. It would be great.
So I just wanted to very quickly also review what's happening on the topics that were covered on the other charter revision commission, and that's the city council one, which you just mentioned. Thank
So
you,
much fun.
thank you for the segue. But there were a lot of topics, but they talked about government accountability, budget transparency,
Mhm.
land use, and then they had a separate section on community boards, which thankfully we've already discussed many of the things that that we talked about earlier in the meeting, so we've sort of covered that. But again, a lot of the topics there, we've either already covered or we don't really have the time to go into all.
Yeah, and is it gonna be like
Yeah.
last year, then it's like the mayor gets there first,
Yeah.
it's gonna be on the ballot first, right? So,
Right, so we don't know if they fill up the ballot with the
Yeah.
mayor's proposals, then whatever the other city council, whatever they were dealing with, is not gonna show up on them.
And so since this is my first time dealing with this, is this something that comes up on charter revisions all the time, the Euler situation and all these things, or no?
no, this is new, yeah.
Okay, anything else, anybody else wants to bring up about charter revisions? Before we move on? Okay. Chair's report, I do have a very brief report because it's our last meeting
Oh, yeah.
before the summer.
Oh,
So I did follow up with Robin Forst at the mayor's office regarding the citywide racial equity plans, which are late. We have not received a
Yeah.
response, so we will continue to follow up and see if we can find out. And we will go from
are we
there.
gonna write a resolution about that? Cause I know we talked about
Well,
it.
the first thought was, let's see what the response is and if we get a response from it, but if not, I think perhaps we can consider if we would want to do a resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we'll take that up next cycle. When
okay,
we come back from our break.
Yeah,
And then I just wanted to review the other resolutions that we've passed this year, which are still relevant. But I don't think there's anything that we need to necessarily do on these, but let me just mention them. So we passed the resolution in support of preserving the federal tax exemption from municipal bonds.
right.
Just so we don't know where that legislation is going, so it could still be relevant. Two, we passed the supporting the New York State Assembly bill and the Senate bill to amend the state constitution to remove the population-based cap on Supreme Court justices.
Right, that's
which
very
is
important.
Very, again, still relevant because they need to do it again and then there needs to be a referendum. So that still will be tracking it. And then third, we passed a resolution urging the state legislature to amend the state constitution again to reform the process for the legislative districts. This was the redistricting
Okay, yeah.
resolution, which again, I think we need to see where that goes and we'll still be keeping track of where that goes. So that was just a review of the year. And I don't know if anyone has anything else they'd like to add before we break for the summer.
Have a great summer.
yeah. I'll just say that the Parks Committee does have 2 additions to the budget request on water beds, that if Neil hasn't gotten to you, I will get that for you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great, that's all I have. Any old or new business?
Just new business, and New York senators are gonna vote against it, I'm sure, but there's a provision in the bill currently working its way through the big, what is a big beautiful bill that would prohibit communities from regulating AI server platforms. So if you wanna talk to your neighbors and what have you, just, or have them contact the people that are in red states and get them to vote, at least take that provision of the bill out of the bill. That would be helpful. I'm sure you know people in red states, I know a lot of them, so,
Most of them are my brothers.
say again.
Most of them are my brothers.
Where,
North
Ah,
Carolina,
there you go.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Florida, yeah.
Good, anything else?
yeah, I got a little heated, and I'm an ass. I did get a little heated because I felt very passionately about this, and I apologize if I was out of line with you. I think maybe in the next session, which is now in September, I'm afraid, I think maybe we ought to talk about making some real reparation, for example, giving Native Americans from from the New York State, from the Iroquois Confederation and the Lenape, full ride scholarships at New York State universities, and a cash stipend to pay for room and board. And I will draft that for September, because that's meaningful to me. The other stuff, like I say, it's virtue signaling.
Thank you, that's a good idea, and then Google it, might actually be happening already.
Not that I'm aware of. I know a lot of Seneca kids that were very smart that couldn't afford to go to college.
Any motion?
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
yeah, motion to,
It's really smart.
wait, what time? Oh, you know what, I didn't write down. what time.
8:08
Yeah.
p.m.
They're really smart kids.
See everybody tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you all tomorrow for more.
The snacks or eat dinner before.
Why is it gonna be a long one?
Should I-